Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
This is the latest disclosure, a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Wait a minute, something's happening. Humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror.
Welcome to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of After Hours AM. So let's kick the tires and light the fires. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, and right along with me.
And I'm Greg Bakken. How are you doing, Joel?
Hey, man, I am doing great. I cannot believe we're only a few days away from the big event, man.
Yeah, it's just about just over a week away before we have the great big event over at the Palmer House, and it's an event run by Things That Go Bump Minnesota. So, Joel, tonight we're going to be talking with two of the organizers who I am very lucky to call very good friends of mine. We are going to be talking to Ryan Headly and John Marson, who have put not just this one together, but they put a number of these things together, and I think it's going to be fantastic to be able to talk a little bit about this event coming up.
Yeah, I do too. It's really, really a cool event. I'm going to be part of it. You're going to be a part of it. Nicole's going to be a part of it, and lots of other cool speakers, along with the folks we're talking tonight. Ryan and John are both top-notch people. I have gotten to know both of them, and it's been really an honor, and I even spoke with Kelly tonight over there at the Palmer House. So all systems are a go. It's going to be a fun time. You're going to have an opportunity to not only come and check out everything that there's a check out, learn from everybody, which is really quite honestly cool because it's a big learning experience as well. That you don't find that as much as you used to. But then if you do choose to, maybe we can crank up the old radio dial and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of education, which is always welcome, and real-life practice that's going to happen because there's going to be an investigation there Saturday night, and I don't know of a cooler place, to be honest, to do a paranormal investigation.
Me neither, man. Me neither. With any further ado, Ryan, John, how you guys doing? Why don't you tell us all about this event? You can do it way better than we can.
How you doing, everybody?
Thanks for having us.
Good, gentlemen, good.
So, Ryan, what's going on, Ryan? Tell us all about it.
Well, it's going to be a really fun event. Like you said, a lot of education along with some hands-on investigating for anybody that's ever been curious, or even if you're experienced, we're going to have a little bit of something for you. Starts out Friday night with some meet and greet social hours, and then we're going to have some paranormal writing down in the basement with one of our guests, Natalie Fowler. She's a paranormal author. That's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to that, actually. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to get into some presentations by our special guests, some things on how to do an investigation, some of the tools of the trade. We're going to get into, you are going to get into some of the spirit boxes, Greg.
Yep.
Then we're going to Joel's going to be talking about some EVPs and the theories. We're going to get into Suzanne Worthley, our energy worker. She's going to be teaching about some psychic energy and how to develop those powers. And then we're going to head on and do the investigation. Hopefully we'll be able to get some good activity going.
Now, how many days is this? I know it's just not a one-night affair. There's a couple nights involved here, isn't there?
Yeah, the event actually starts Friday and goes through Sunday. But also the Palmer House has been gracious enough to offer a deal where if you book Friday and Saturday night, she's going to throw in Thursday night free. So we'll all be up there Thursday night getting ready to have some fun too.
Man, I will so be there. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about how great it is, and I'm actually very intrigued by the paranormal writing in the basement. I'm not familiar with what that is.
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun. I'm not too familiar with it either, but it'll be a blast. It's something that we've never tried before at one of our events, so I think it's going to be a whole new aspect that we've never experienced, and I think it could bring in some neat stuff.
One thing with Natalie, she does this paranormal writing, and I have heard from a lot of people that it's pretty cool when it's all done over. I'm going to do it myself, just because I want to experience it. But yeah, everybody I've spoken to, I'm very happy with it. They all give it a thumbs up.
Cool, man. I will be a guinea pig, so I'll try anything over there, including the paranormal writing, and I want to be a guinea pig and try my hand at the ghost box.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing that I love about, this sounds silly because it's me doing it, but it's one of the things I really love about the event is the fact that, you can hear spirits in real time when it's working. Like we always say, there's no guarantee, right, of spirit activities, but I think at the Palmer House you have a very good chance of that happening. And I do have to say, to be very honest, I'm actually really looking forward. I mean, apart from everything, and I've seen pretty much everybody talk before, but Joel, I'm very interested to hear your presentation about EVP work and everything you guys have done. So that's exciting to me.
Well, I'm just kind of a sound nerd, so I hope I don't put anyone to sleep. Mainly, because I'll kind of go into not only because we know communication has been made, but we're going to go into the nuts and bolts of why it exists and really the science behind why I think, because there are no experts in this field, why I believe it exists. And so that'll be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast. Again, where can they get their tickets, man? We got to tell them where they can get their tickets.
Sure, tickets are on our website, thingsthatgobump.mn.com, and it'll also have all the details on everything that you need to know right there too.
So what is it that prompts you and John to be like, we need to do these events? What is the impetus behind this?
John, I'll let you go ahead and answer that one.
Yeah, my opinion on it is it's not so much one thing I like to tell people and make them understand. We are not out here to make money off of this. Everything that is from the ticket sales covers our cost. And if by chance there is a few bucks left, we turn around and put it into the group and buy another piece of equipment to further do this stuff. Because doing this is very expensive, for one thing. As far as why we do it, I've had a lot of experience throughout my life. I know Ryan has. I know you have, Greg.
Yep.
And it's just about helping people understand that, hey, I'm not going crazy. This is really happening. And, I think you can vouch for that as well. We have caught a lot of good evidence from seeing it personally, to apparition, to EVPs, to just basic communication. And it is amazing because some of the questions you ask when you're doing an EVP, and they're answering you intelligently. They're answering that question.
Yeah, I find that absolutely cool. I do the EVP part of it's always got me as a sound guy, being on radio as long as I have. It kind of made me go into the science end of it as well, because, my first one was caught by accident, and that's what kind of, when I was about 16 or 17 in the graveyard with a old reel-to-reel recorder back in the late 80s. So that's how old I am, but that's how long I've been at it since the reel-to-reel days. Cassette was around, but that's all I had access to at the time. Because, Mom and Dad wouldn't spring for a little cassette recorder. Let's just be honest. I blame them. I might have gotten farther, but I just won't get it from you for Christmas. But that being said, I've messed around with parabolic microphones. I've messed around with you name it. I messed around with it. It's just really, I still have answered it. After 20 plus years of messing around with these ghost voices, I honestly, and I'll tell this to everybody, I don't have the answer yet. I think I might have some inclination of what's going on, but man, we are so far from that answer. It's just not there yet. And if that were there, we wouldn't be on the radio today wondering why it's happening. It would be just commonplace. So, we're all looking for that same thing.
And I want
another thing.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, John.
Just one other thing on that is, parents, I tell you what, kids see things we do not see. And it helps if you understand what your child is talking about and maybe try to help understand. It's all just a whole big learn for everybody. I just feel it helps. If the parent knows exactly, okay, yeah, maybe little Joey is fibbing around a little bit, but maybe he's not.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I keep saying, and I will keep saying until I'm blue in the face, is especially about the event that you guys put on. There has never been, in my experience, a better way to learn about the intricacies and fundamentals of a paranormal investigation than the way that Ryan and you, John, lay it out, because it is simple, it's to the point, it's factual, it is what you need to do to be able to carry out a respectful investigation, which that is what I'm all about personally. I don't want to go in and provoke stuff. I want to go in and have good conversations with spirits. And this is why I keep telling people why this is a great event to go to, because this is where you learn how to do it. And you guys are great teachers on how to do it.
I totally believe in if you don't, we don't like to provoke. If we have to do a little poking, it's never severe to where you do see on some schools and stuff like that. We do nothing but total respect, because I feel it pays off better in the long run. And I think you can agree to that too, Ryan, that when we are respectful, thank you, this, that.
Yep.
We have gotten some great evidence. And plus, it's respectful to turn around and yell and scream at somebody, and demand things. Hey, just be nice.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. You would not yell and scream at someone on the street. So why would you do the same thing? Why would you do that in that location, that environment? Because, if I'm someone that's just meeting you and you start yelling at me, I'm not going to talk to you. I'll be like, whatever, That guy's a jerk, man. I'm out of here. So,
exactly. And I have seen provoking backfire on people to where, okay, you're going to talk to me this way. They do have ways of getting your attention, and maybe not in a very nice way.
No, and here's the thing. We keep talking about this event. We keep talking about Palmer House. Would one of you, maybe Ryan, would you be able to just give us a little bit of background on the Palmer? Not like maybe not like a history lesson, but I think people should understand why this place is a place that we like to go to for investigations and learnings that we try to get out of the paranormal.
Sure. Without going into too much history, the place is extremely active. I mean, every time we've been up there, we've had results, and we've had interactions, whether they be caught on the equipment or a personal experience. And it's a very friendly, welcoming environment. It's not a place where people are going to be in danger of getting hurt or negatively interacted with by a spirit. I mean, it's 99.9% positive there. I can never say it's 100% positive, because there's always that chance, but most of our interactions have been positive, and they've been a lot of fun. And that's something that we want to bring people into. It's that type of environment that we want people to have their first experience, or to have these exposures to, so that they can learn that this isn't something you need to be terrified by. All these TV shows show you that is a scary thing. And we out to show people that, no, this is a lot of fun. It can be educational. I mean, you can learn a lot of stuff from spirits if you're willing to listen to them. And I think that the Palmer House is a perfect place. Not only does it have the nice education aspect to it, but also people can stay there in the haunted hotel too, and they can have experiences in their own rooms.
Very true, and I'm looking forward to that. And go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, John.
Nope, sorry. And again, it's no guarantee anybody's, you will have an experience. But again, like Ryan said, we have never been disappointed with the Palmer House. And what we like to do, with Cole and Suzanne, they're part of this whole little circle, and they like to come with us. So if somebody ever does have a problem, they're there to correct that problem. And they're more than happy to do it, and they're more than qualified to do it.
So do you guys ever have fun of the new meat? Do you ever get someone like myself and say, hey, let's put this guy in the most haunted room. Let's see what happens in the new meat.
If we knew of a most haunted room, we might, but all the rooms are so active, it's hard to pinpoint one room.
So there's no epicenter. There's no like, whoa, that room is really wild. There's no 1308 in there, is what you're saying.
I also feel like that if there was one haunted room, I think we'd all be fighting over it, wouldn't we?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I would. I've been doing some research in the Palmer, and like I said, I even talked to the owner today. And again, Kelly is a really nice person, and I look forward to meeting her. Also with you guys, I really look forward to meeting all of you. But now, when we get there, and what can people expect when they buy their ticket? They come to this event. What? Give me the itinerary. What's the rundown of stuff?
It's like I said, Friday night is going to be kind of check-in, and people are going to be able to socialize. They're going to be able to meet all of us, get to know us a little bit before we turn off all the lights and expect everybody to sit in the dark. We like to let people know, and we share stories Friday night. It's a lot of fun Friday, sharing stories, evidence. Some people, it might be their first time there. Some people, it might be their 30th time there. Mm-hmm. So it's always fun. And then we're also doing that paranormal writing in the basement. That'll be a blast. I can't wait for that. And then Saturday, we start with the classrooms and just get into the education piece of it. We really feel that education is important. We never want to throw anybody at something untrained or set them up for failure. We want to make sure that they're properly prepared for this so that they can have the best experience possible. And then Saturday night, we hit her hard and have a lot of fun doing the investigation. We cover basically the whole hotel.
Yeah, and then Saturday night and how it works generally is there's going to be people upstairs that kind of like you have people kind of anchored in different parts of the hotel, and then we're kind of rotating people through. That's still going to be the case with this, right?
Yeah, we found that by having the investigators stay in the assigned areas and then rotate the attendees through, we have a solid person there so that if activity is going off, if there's a certain trigger up there, we can continue that activity and keep it going rather than everybody moving around and hitting the room fresh. That way, we kind of already have that trust relationship built up with whatever spirit might be there.
I think it's also interesting too, from someone who has been in the situation of groups coming in and out of where I'm anchored, which has been historically the third floor. The group's energy varies greatly throughout the night, and so it really affects the evidence that we're picking up, which I found very fascinating.
Tremendously, the more energy. The more energy the group has, the more activity we have. If we're in there laughing and joking and singing songs, the spirits just want to come and play with us. Versus if a group is sitting there staring at the wall, the spirits are going to sit there and stare at the wall too. Okay. Or they're going to walk down to the other group that is having a lot of fun.
Well, I just want to tell you guys right away, if they're going to sit there and stare at the wall, I'm leaving. I'll go to another group myself. So I'll be like, you know what? I want to have some fun, guys. And we got another little cool thing to throw out there. I think, Greg, you're ready to throw that out there. We're going to do something very, very special on Thursday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for those who are, especially if you're getting the room for Friday and Saturday and you get that Thursday night free, we're going to be doing a live remote, Joel and I, for the Thursday night show, which is even cooler because that's going to be an Eric Olson night also. So we're going to be doing live remote from the Palmer. Eric is going to be more remote than our remote, as we all do a show that night. And we're going to be talking to people at the remote. We're going to have people on talk about their ghost stories at the Palmer. I think we're going to play some of Things That Go Bumps, EVPs that they picked up. Maybe I can throw a couple of stuff that we've picked up also in there. And it's just going to be a lot of fun on Thursday night. I think it's going to be an amazing way to kick off that weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely when we do After Hours AM does a remote, we bring the party with us, and we include everybody that wants to come along and get on the microphone. They all have an opportunity to get on national radio. How often do you get on national radio, Greg?
Well, me every week.
Well, yes, true. But, I mean, if you're attending this, how often can you speak to the world? Not very.
Not very often. Not very often at all. No.
You know. Some of them,
And here's the thing: being able to hear like Kelly's story, because I believe she's going to be a part of it, and hearing once again more of what Ryan and John have picked up at the Palmer in terms of EVPs and stuff that we can play some of that. Plus the people. I mean, Thursday night traditionally there's a healthy group in the bar that are coming for the weekend. So there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to be able to share their stories, and those are stories that should be heard.
Exactly. 100% agree with you, but, maybe we should hear a little bit more about Ryan and John, who they are, their credentials, because, they are the founders of the Minnesota group, of course, that group being Things That Go Bump Minnesota. How did you guys come together? What was your guys' interests?
Go ahead, John.
I think we were just talking at work one day. I started about 5 years ago. And we just started talking about it, and so we went on a couple different things.
Sure.
And we did a couple things out there in a different. It's just like, we watched how things are run, and it's like, why don't we get something together here and try to help people understand that this isn't a show, this isn't a game, and because there's so many people out there that do not understand what's really going on if they're having experiences or what. Mm-hmm. So that's how we got together and decided to start something up. Then we had some people to bring on, and we've been going now for, what is it, Ryan, about 4.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, right around there, 4.5.
Well, unfortunately, John was really breaking up, so if you could go ahead and give us the Ryan, the nickel rendition of what John said. I must be one of those cell phone gremlins that decided to kick up.
Yeah. What John was saying is basically we met through work, and we just started talking about some experiences, and through talking and sharing those experiences, we decided, hey, let's start this thing and go out and do some investigating and see if we like it, and ended up liking it a lot, and then realized that, there's a need out there for people to do some education to help people, because there's nobody out there when we started it. When we had our experiences, we didn't know where to go, so we wanted to have a place for people to go and feel safe and comfortable getting some help if they needed it. And then that evolved into the education. Yeah.
So how long did you two know each other before you started Things That Go Bump?
Oh, a couple of years for sure.
So you guys already had a solid, a solid friendship, and were able to really understand each other, and that's big because you already had chemistry, and you're able to trust each other to go out there and do all that. And then, how many years have you guys been at this?
Officially, we started in 2013. John and I have been doing investigating on our own and dealing with this for well over 20 years each.
Wow.
So it's been a long time.
Yeah, that is a long time, and and things like that. You learn as you go, and it's nice that you guys are going to pass that knowledge on to the people that buy a ticket to come to that event. And of course, guys, you're going to want to come here. It's the things that go bump Minnesota. We're having a great little event, 11th through the 13th at the Palmer House. You're going to want to check that out. And your tickets, of course, you can go to that address, the www.thingsthatgobumpminnesota.com. Not the whole word Minnesota, just mn.com. Get your tickets. I do believe there's only a handful or so left, right? About 15, you were saying?
Yep, only about 15 left.
Yeah, that's
so get them while they still have a chance.
Yeah, get them while they're hot, man. Get them while you can, because once that final ticket's sold, you will not have an opportunity to experience all the wonderfulness that is the Palmer House, that is this event, Things That Go Bump Minnesota, pulling out all the stops, bringing you all the entertainment and education, all wrapped into one. It's going to be a great weekend.
Yeah, look forward to it.
So any advice you guys would like to impart before you guys take off here? Because I know we have Carin Smurl here at the bottom of the hour. And, of course, as you know, that she is the Smurl haunting was famous, had Ed and Lorraine Warren involved. They made a feature film, and there is some rumor that they may be going forward with another movie rendition of the Smurl haunting. She'll be at the bottom of the hour. But until then, guys, give us some advice. Give us a little taste of the advice that you give people that do buy a ticket.
Get rest before you come, because you're going to have a long weekend.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And I did hear that the beer is on John. That's what I heard. That's what I was told.
Great news.
That's what I heard.
With Ryan's credit card.
Come thirsty is what you're saying.
That's the rumor I heard anyway.
And I'm always
One thing with the Palmer House. One thing with the Palmer House, their wait staff is top notch. Their food, the drinks are good. The atmosphere is great. Kelly, the owner, unbelievable.
Sure.
You can't miss it. It's a great time. You're gonna have fun.
On a very serious note, of course, what I do like is that when I walk into the bar every time, Maria or Kari or whoever is always telling me about the whiskey that they got in just for me because they know I'm coming. So that is always probably the best part of the weekend, to be honest.
That is always
they take care of us pretty good up there.
And that is going to be the best, not the best part. Obviously, the best part will be meeting everybody and learning. But the second best part, man, I'm always down for a good steak. I'm just saying.
Oh, they have a good ribeye there, ribeye special.
Good ribeye special that has my name all over it. So, hey, come on with us. You can have a dinner with a ghost with us. Come on. And then, of course, it's time to go lights out. Of course, that'll be Saturday night. Lights out. Come find out what the Palmer has in store in a safe, reliable atmosphere. So, again, like they were saying, like John and Ryan both were saying, there's nothing to be afraid of. That there is, if this is your first time investigating, you're kind of afraid to investigate, maybe you don't know what to do, this is the perfect location, the perfect group to take you through those ropes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, very much so. It's I'm looking very much forward to it, and it's always good to see you guys. And I'm looking forward to seeing Suzanne and Lisa, and of course Nicole and Natalie. So it's going to be a great time.
They're all great.
Oh, definitely. It's going to be one of those times. So you'll pay for the whole ticket, but you'll pay for the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. Come on. I had to go back to my monster truck days. Sunday. But yeah, that's it. That event will be coming up again, folks. Mark your calendars, the 11th through the 13th. If you want to come the 10th, that's a Thursday. You can come on radio with us as well. Enjoy the weekend with us. Learn a lot about the paranormal. Meet all the people that from Things That Go Bump Minnesota, as well as myself and Greg, Nicole, and a bunch of other fine folks. And check it all out. It'll be a lot of fun. But that being said, guys, we got to jet out of here. Carin Smurl's coming up in just a few moments. You're not going to want to miss that. We'll be right back right after this.
patients can't afford a place to stay when the best treatment is far from home. A room shouldn't be the difference between life and death. Let's make sure that everyone who needs a room gets one. Let's make some noise. Let's help the American Cancer Society finish the fight.
Text ROOM to 41518 to donate $10.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If pop culture is to be believed, roughly 40% of all people are actually vampires, or dating one. Well, undead or not, you can always save on a clean, comfortable room at Motel 6, even if you sleep during the day because direct sunlight turns you into a pile of sparkly coffee grounds. Speaking of which, we have free coffee every morning. You day sleepers may want to go for the decaf. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you. Book online at motel6.com.
Hello, this is Joel Sturgis, one of your hosts of After Hours AM, and I'm here to tell you all about Planet Paranormal. Planet Paranormal is the place that you can hear every single After Hours AM podcast right from the very, very beginning. So tune in over at www.planetparanormal.com. That's right, planetparanormal.com. You'll be extremely glad you did.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
I heard on the news about that 5-year-old who found his uncle's gun. The kid didn't know it was loaded.
I heard on the news about that 14-year-old girl who was bullied online. For like a year, she couldn't take it anymore, so she got her dad's gun from his nightstand.
I heard on the news about that guy who broke into someone's house, stole a gun from the hall closet.
He accidentally shot his cousin in the head.
She killed herself.
And later, killed the owner of the store he was trying to rob.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Do you have a question for our guest tonight? Don't feel like calling the show? Not a problem. Email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Again, that's afterhoursam@gmail.com.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. So right along with me, as always,
Greg Bakken.
Hey, Greg, man, we have a heck of a show on tap. And it's been a friend of mine and yours a long time on social media, and we've talked here and there off air. And it's the first time I've ever had the opportunity to have Carin Smurl on the air with us. I've always wanted to talk to her, and it's always been one of those stories that we all grew up with, you know, the Smurl haunting and things like that. But I also want to make a point to say that there's more to Carin than just the haunting. And we're going to talk to her about her thoughts and feelings in a lot of different subject matters in the paranormal and maybe even out of the paranormal. But I'd also like to introduce Carin proper. Carin is a hell of a lady, and she is what a lot would call a haunted survivor. Now, her family, obviously, if you did see any of the television shows, especially the 1991 made-for-TV movie of the same name, The Haunted, by 20th Century Fox, and you will kind of know the story as well as many, many YouTube videos and writings done on the subject matter. But tonight we're going to get the information firsthand directly from Carin. We don't need a third-party intermediary giving us bad information, showing pictures that don't even really belong with your story, which I did notice a lot of that, Carin, by the way. Yeah, there's a lot of liberties taken with the story, so I'd like to talk to you and hear from you. Now, Carin, man, I got to ask, how has, first and foremost, this haunting changed your life and how people approach you?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's something that most people, of course, never have to deal with. So, I mean, first and foremost, I like to describe it. I mean, it is a negative thing, obviously, and it is, you know, a family going through a tragedy. I mean, I hate to compare it to other stuff, you know, like disease, like addiction, like, you know, abusive things. But, I mean, although it seems unfair to compare it to those things, it leaves a lasting impression on you, and it changes you like those things do. So it is just a family that went through a tragedy. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, we were a strong family. We were strong in our faith. We were a strong family unit. We had a strong, you know, community ties, and, you know, luckily for us, with all that being said, we were able to stick together. We had support, you know, so we were able to come out of it, and we were able to, you know, we were able to become stronger people. So, you know, I say I'm as tough as nails, and I am. I've been through a lot. I've been through something most people don't have to experience. So it did make me stronger. It made me tough as hell. You know, it does leave you with a little PTSD. I mean, anybody that's around me knows. I know when I'm here by myself, I sleep with the lights on still 30 years later, so if they laugh at me, but I truly do. You know, so it does change you. And the fact that I grew up that way, I mean, I don't know life myself. I don't know life without it. My parents, you know, they had their childhood, they had their teens, they had their 20s. I don't know what it was like to grow up without that. You know, that kind of was my whole life. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's worth pointing out for people who don't understand that when you're talking like this, it's not so much like, you know, like a movie where it's, you know, 2 hours that takes place over a few weeks or whatever. It's been well over a decade of this oppression, right?
Yeah, it was. The worst of it took place from about, I would say, the early 80s until the mid-90s.
Well, gosh.
So, I mean, you're talking more than a decade. And that was just the worst of it. I mean, it was continuing way after that. But that was, you know, that was the height of the activity.
And small things started at the beginning also, in the 70s. And can I just say, in my humble opinion, that I think you have every right to compare it to the tragedies that you talked about, because what happened to you and your family, a lot of that stuff mirrors what you had just said about abuse and about illness and all that stuff. And it's I mean, it's easy to disregard it if you don't live it, but it is a very valid comparison.
Yeah, absolutely.
Carin,
I mean, it took its toll on everybody.
But why you guys? But I mean, why you? From all accounts, your family was a normal, God-fearing family. You grew up Catholic. I mean, you know, you guys had strong faith. And one thing, reading all the files and the actual case files and reading what was written firsthand, what kept on going through my head, why you guys?
Well, you know, that's what we always asked, and my mom always said, "Why us? Why us? Why us?" And I learned more so after the fact. You know, after the Warrens taught us everything. After I studied, after I started helping people with paranormal issues, when I got into the field, you know, from all the years that I studied the religion end of it and the paranormal end of it, and just talking to demonologists and priests and people from every religion and background. it seems to be a common theme that, the demonic tends to go after people of faith, Catholic people that are really close to God. Yes, you have your instances where there's the occult and people, invited in and different, things, and we all have our theories. But the devil's, one of his biggest goals. I mean, not only does he want to kill you and take your soul, he would get no greater pride than making someone who was a true believer in God turn away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that if he could take a truly holy, Catholic, devout, God-fearing person and turn them away from God and break up a family like we had, isn't that like the ultimate win for him?
I think you're right. I agree. I always ask myself this, though, whenever I hear about hauntings or possessions, we get a lot of emails, a lot of people talking to us about this stuff. Ultimately, other than what you just mentioned, what does this entity, being, demon, whatever you want to call it, have to gain from doing it?
That's a good question. I really truly believe that he gets, it's like entertainment for him. I mean, isn't that what the devil's all about? To cause misery. He wants you to be afraid.
Well, just addendum to that question. Yeah, just addendum to that question would be, why not attack someone in a position of power that could make a difference in this world for evil? You see what I'm saying? Why attack a middle-class family when you could go, for instance, maybe influence a king or a world leader? I mean, it just never made any sense to me.
Absolutely I think he does. I think he does. I mean, the devil, he comes after you in ways you can't even imagine. I mean, he doesn't care how you're sinning. I mean, you mentioned like world leaders. I mean, look at the state of the world.
Exactly.
I mean, half of I don't want to say half, 99.999% of the politicians out there, don't have a moral bone in their body. They can be bought and sold, at the drop of a dime. They're not always making the best decisions. I mean, you can't really call them, morally. I don't. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going.
That's a good comparison.
What I find interesting about your question, Joel, is the idea of why go after a family like this? But it's in a way, don't you think it's kind of the same thing as like, why do little kids like to torture ants? Why do?
Oh, exactly. I completely agree. I feel bad. I mean, not bad, but I mean, it always makes you shake my head going, these are good people, and I get it. I mean, I get it. If I was evil, I want to destroy anything I come into contact that's good, and I get that. And I always ask myself, though, what's the end game? And obviously, the end game was, Karen, to break apart your family. It never did that, though. It kept,
and you guys strong.
But I can say this.
Catholic home, yeah.
I mean, right, and I can say this. I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of great people in this field. And I've had because of who I am, and we kind of have like bonds, and we're able to talk to each other. Because let's face it, there's not too many people who go through what we went through. So to have a few people in your circle that you can actually talk to and say, hey, this just happened, or hey, this happened to me. Like, can I talk to you? So I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet people like Andrea, like talk to Andrea Perrin, and talk to people like Christopher Quarantino, who is one of the Lutz boys, and Deborah Johnson, who is from The Devil in The Devil Made Me Do It. I mean, she was another case back in, I believe that hers was back in the 70s and early 80s. Mm-hmm. She has a very interesting case, and just to talk to people like that and have, let's put it this way, we're lucky, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell the details of everybody's story. But like Andrea, she's lucky enough she stayed close to most of her family as well. But, Deborah, she's got a lot of things going on, and it caused a lot of problems for her family. Sure. Christopher, the Lutzes and the Quarantinos, that story tore them apart, from cousins to brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles. I mean, the whole family is at war, and he makes that public. I mean, I'm not giving away secrets here. That's something he makes public. So, I mean, there are so many cases where these families literally have been torn to pieces, and 30 years later, they're still dealing with lawsuits, and they don't speak to each other, and they don't want anything to do with each other, and, you know, they're fighting over money and just different things. So we are actually lucky because the devil won in a lot of those cases. He really did. He shattered those families.
And even to this day, like you're just saying, even to this day, they're shattered.
Yes.
So basically, evil did not win in your situation, which is fantastic.
Right. We were lucky.
So, you know, here's something that I kind of thought interesting, and, you know, it's like a conspiracy sort of theory sort of thing here, but you moved from, or your family moved, and before you were born, if I'm not mistaken, from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania to West Pittston, right? Because of flood damage or whatever. You know, you kind of wonder, knowing what evil can be and what it is, you know, you kind of wonder if that was all part of an orchestration of a larger plan, you know, of like, get them out of there and get them to this house for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when they can start doing, this is when the evil can start doing what it needs to do. Have you or your family ever thought about it that way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you this, I've never said this on the radio before, because this invites in a lot of, I've dealt with, I hate to use the word crazy, but I've dealt with a lot of crazy people. And by crazy, it's the things they can tell me about visions about my family and my old house. It's off the wall. But I will actually invite you guys, like, if you know anybody that wants to take up, you know, this case study, 30 years later, we still don't have all the answers. I mean, because of the Warrens, we were able to, you know, fight this thing off little by little by little and finally get some peace. But there's just so much surrounding it. We could spend 5 hours talking about it, you know.
Oh, I believe that.
When people ask me, when people ask me questions, I kind of just go, I could sit here and go on for 5 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, over the 30 years, even since, my cousin is huge. Like, she has the Ancestry.com, and she does all this genealogy stuff, and she's amazing at it. But even the stuff that we've found out about our family afterwards, there was a murder in that house in West Pittston. You know, there was, there was a murder. There was supposedly, quote unquote, a curse put on it by a witch that used to live there. And I don't mean witch with the pointy hat. I mean a lady that used to practice. You know, they took the land off of her because her husband passed away and she could not afford to pay for it. And she supposedly put a curse. Like I said, there was death there. And I also found out that people in my family had experiences, and someone even committed suicide in my family. My dad's cousin back in the 50s, because he was seeing things in his house. But I mean, there's just so many things, and we've been told. Even Johnny Zaffis had told my parents at one point, you know, hey, I mean, I don't know. He was really young at the time. You know, he was just still working, you know, learning from Ed Warren. But he even made a comment the one time about, I believe that your family has a curse on it. Wow. I think it's in your bloodline. Believe it's in your bloodline. Which actually 30 years later, my mom thought he was off his rocker at that point, but now makes sense because now all of our children are having experiences.
Yeah, I was gonna.
My oldest nephew is
I was gonna ask you whether it stopped with your family, or even to this day, is there hints or at least experiences still going on with any part of your family?
Yep.
Interesting.
Absolutely, and Joel could probably attest to this because I post my stuff on Facebook. I don't care. I mean, people contact me for help, so I think by just sharing my stories, it makes people feel more comfortable. Like, okay, she's not going to think I'm crazy. But I mean, you know, we all live in separate houses. Some of us live in separate towns. My oldest, like our children, the oldest now is 26, and the youngest is 6. Every single one of them has seen and heard, and, you know, my daughter still, I'll come home and she'll say, Mom, I saw that shadow guy again. My niece will say, Mom, there's, you know, a guy walking through the house. My nephew's been scratched. My other nephew's been scratched in the shower. I mean, it's not all the time, but like every couple months, something will happen to somebody. And like I said, we're all spread out all over. So even my family in New Jersey, my cousin will call from New Jersey and go, I had this happen to me today. So, I mean, it's still happening. So that's why I'm saying if anybody wants to throw some theories out there, some suggestions. Feel free if you want to, think you might have this all figured out. I'm happy to hear it.
So, what do you feel what do you feel like when you hear about that stuff? Are you more used to that now when you're hearing about new instances of people in your family seeing stuff, or do you kind of start getting like, is this going to be a start of something else now?
No, I don't think it's a start. I just think it's a continuance. And again, this is something I've also learned from working in the paranormal field. This is also something I've learned from working with demonologists, as well as working with some of those people that I mentioned earlier that had lived through similar experiences. They say, once you've been touched by the demonic, it never goes away. It's like you won the war, but you still have all these little battles. Maybe you've defeated the big guy, but he's constantly just sending his little minions kind of just to aggravate you, just to keep you on your toes. And, I mean, it's true. You do have to stay vigilant. You have to, I'm always blessed in my house. I'm always like, oh, my gosh, where's the St. Benedict medal? Why is it not above the door? Like, there's one above every door. My mom just had an incident at her house with my sister, and I got some medals up there, and I sent her some prayers, and I said, here's what you got to do. And she did it, and it's been quiet for 3 months now.
But it sounds like even to this day, Karen, I did not realize at all that there is still, fear surrounding this haunting. And I mean, even though you guys have taken the bull by the horns and you have a much better handle on the haunting, it is still with your family. Even to this. This is not something I knew. That I didn't even know about. I was kind of on the assumption, reading everything that was out there, all the books. I mean, the write-ups that it subsided somewhere in 1989, where it seemed to have subsided, and that was the end of the story. Now we come back, we're doing the whole Paul Harvey thing going, and now for the rest of the story. So you're still having this, and really, how do you battle back? I mean, how do you keep this thing in somewhat of a check? Have you learned some tactics to kind of defeat the evil, so to speak?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, even from day one, Ed and Lorraine Warren, I mean, they're so strong. They were so strong spiritually. And my parents already were, but they just fine-tune things. And I've learned things from some demonologists that I didn't even know then. I said, Mom, how come they never told us about this, like that we could do this? Or, how come I didn't know this? Or, but just, luckily, again, I'm surrounded by good people, and you just you have to stay on top of it. Like, you have to make sure that, I try to stay away from all things what we as Catholics consider, no-nos. I try to stay away from no Ouija boards, no seances, no tarot cards, none of that kind of stuff, for me anyway, because I already have spirits around me all the time. That's the last thing I need is to get any more. Like, I don't need to invite anything else. But I mean, make sure that we have, again, the medals. I keep them all over the house. St. Benedict, he's stronger than you think, I'm telling you. The holy water. It's like those, it's funny because it's so cliche. Holy water, medals, rosaries. It's very cliche, but it's something that I find work. And also, you have to take charge of yourself. You have to take charge of your children. Especially if they're minors, you have more control over them than the demonic. You have to take authority in your home. You have to say, excuse me, like, not today, Satan, like, this is my house.
Yeah.
I don't have time for your nonsense. Say you need to get out. Like, you literally have to stand your ground. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, it's your house. You have more say than you think. It doesn't always, it's not going to make everything go away, but you need to, don't show the fear that you want to show. I'm sorry.
So
I have to work on it because I'm a work in progress, because I told you before, I sleep with the lights on sometimes, most of the time. So in a way, I'm kind of showing fear. But hey, listen, I'm still working on it. Okay.
And don't you think too that because when I go into paranormal investigations or whatever, or you get out of maybe a kind of a nastier one, so to speak, having just like that positive frame of mind too, is whatever you do is always going to be positive, and that you're thinking
right
the best thoughts that you can think, because that's also that bubble that you put around you.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I'm not so much one, because I'm Catholic, I'm not so much big on a whole bunch of other types of things, but whatever, I'm never going to knock anybody's religion.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever keeps you, or, personally as an investigator, whatever keeps you in a positive state of mind, whatever keeps you feeling like you're strong and, you're wearing armor, by all means, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I complain a lot. You see me, I'm always complaining about something on Facebook, but, I don't always agree with, sage and, crystals. They're not going to chase away the demonic, okay? They just don't. It just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just going into a location, anything you could do to keep your mind strong, and you need to be strong physically strong, mentally strong, emotionally strong. I always tell people you're most vulnerable when you're sick. You're most vulnerable when you're going through a tough time, whether it's you're in a relationship issues or family issues, or maybe you're just depressed, whatever the case is, any of those emotional things are putting you in a weakened state.
No, I have
drugs, alcohol, lack of sleep, all of those things.
I was going to say, when it comes to the medals and the medallions and all those things, that a lot of people, I'm not going to knock it at all, because I've also heard that's intent. If you believe this is going to work, it's going to work. What's your view on that?
Right. Again, I think it works to a point. There's two types, the spiritual world. I mean, if people run out of places because they hear something or whatever, if it's a human spirit, I mean, I don't know what you're so afraid of. It's the human spirit. I don't care if they're the nastiest human spirit going. They're still a person. They're dead. They were human, It's not like they have superpowers. I mean, to have whatever it is that makes you feel like you're keeping yourself strong, like I said, emotionally, physically.
Yeah.
I don't care if you want to use sage, fine. You want to use crystals, fine. You want to use your holy water, fine. I think it's a different story when it comes to demonic. And I think a lot of paranormal investigators, you want to go on an investigation, fine. You want to go to the haunted hotel in this state or that state, fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're not in danger encountering these human spirits. But I think maybe 1% of the investigators in the field out there are actually equipped to handle something darker. I really don't think it's for everyone.
I'm not equipped to handle. I'm the first to admit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And healthy fear comes education. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If you can't handle the lion, don't try to go in the cage with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
absolutely, I agree.
I've heard, I've been involved in where people have thrown around the D word to me, and I'm like, hey, I ain't going in there. I'm not stupid.
Right.
What, you think I'm crazy? I'm not going to go in there where you think there's a fire-breathing demon. I'm not insane. But yet, people still want to poke the damn bear. Let's go in there and poke the bear and see what happens. But one thing they don't understand, and let me get in the soapbox box for a second, is even though you're challenging this thing today, it doesn't mean 20 years from now when you're at your weakest, it won't pop up, because it has no concept of time. It'll wait for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my favorite.
And it's funny that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say my favorite thing that I've ever heard Bishop Long say is that evil can wait, and that's exactly what you just said, Joel. I like it.
Yeah, and that's the truth. That it's the truth.
Well, it's so funny because I hear that Ouija boards. The biggest joke I hear is Ouija boards. It's a board game. It's made by a company that makes games for kids. And I forget who said it earlier. One of you nailed it right on the head. You said it's all about the intent.
Yeah.
So every time I hear, it's just a board game, I cringe because I'm thinking, it has nothing to do with you could take a piece of cardboard from your pizza box, and you can draw some letters on it, and you can sit in your living room and do the same thing. It doesn't matter what it's made out of, who made it.
Yep.
It's all about, you trying to communicate with the spirits, you opening up this doorway, you inviting it in, because you never know what you're inviting in. And then they invite it in, and like you said, a lot of the times, I don't get that phone call right away.
Yeah.
You know which phone calls I get at 3 o'clock in the morning? I get, I need help, something's going on, I don't know what to do, I'm scared, I don't know, my kids are terrified, what do I do?
Yeah.
Ever played with the Ouija board? Yeah, but that was when I was 17. Oh, so it was 10 years ago? I get that so often.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
You know what? We got to run a break, but I'm really enjoying this discussion, Karen. I want to get deeper into that. Don't go anywhere. More Carin Smurl. We come back right after this. You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
It's your ideas, work, and creativity that make it your yard. At ACE, we're here to help with hoses and sprinklers to nurture growth, gardening tools for the shape of good things to come, even the right fertilizer and bug killers to make the grass a little greener. You'll find it all now at ACE, your place, with everything you need for your yard, plus helpful advice, almost like we're right there. ACE,
the helpful place.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
And welcome back to After Hours AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Greg Bakken.
Hey, Greg, man. We were talking about this, and we were getting ready to interview Karen, and we've learned a few things along the way, like the haunting is still going on. And one thing I wanted to ask Karen, really, because her dad, of course, he passed not too long ago, but he was, and he was a hell of a guy, by the way. I very, very much liked reading about how strong he was, and of course how strong in his faith he was. But he was also a very pragmatic man. He was not someone to fall for just about anything. How did he handle when the haunting became apparent to him? How was his worldview shaken?
A father, especially at a time when fathers were fathers. And, he was working 40 plus hours a week, and my mom stayed home. There was 4 of us, she was a stay-at-home mom. And so he was working, and he was, taking care of cutting the grass and taking care of the house, fixer-uppers and driving the kids around and, being the coach for this softball team and being in the Lions Club and, all these different things that he was doing and all these worries he had, supporting 4 children and a house and everything else. And then all of a sudden, one day, you've got this. And now it's, how the hell do I protect my family from something I can't even see? Mm-hmm. How do I, if he was always a proud member of the NRA. He always owned a gun, Second Amendment all the way. But, and he would have put his life on the line for any of us. But I think for him, the realization of, like, how do I protect my family from this? Like, what do I do? I think that's hard for anybody. I mean, it's just me and my daughter that live here, you know, and I know I grew up knowing that I have to protect myself from that. And I worry. You know, she's 16. When I go off to work, in the back of my head, it's always, what if something happens to her? What if she gets scared? What if something scares her, you know, and she's, you know, terrified and I'm not there? And I always think about that. But could you imagine, like, all of a sudden your world just changes? And it's like, that's what do you do? Where do you go as a man who would protect his family to no end? How do you protect your family from something like that?
Do you think he was?
You know, it just blew his mind.
Do you think he was pinpointed by whatever was in the house because of that, because of those that philosophy that he had of I'm going to protect everyone, I need to be strong, and that they went after that?
I absolutely do, and also again, I had mentioned, like, other things that had been going on, different theories. Apparently, there was, again, there had been a murder on the property many years before, and he was supposedly being targeted by the person who was murdered. It was a female. It was like a domestic kind of issue that was going on, and some again. I believe about 1% of the psychics out there, so I'm very skeptical when it comes to psychics and mediums. Yeah. I only listen to a few, but I mean, that were some of the things that were being told, that he also was being, he resembled the man that was murdered there. And I've seen pictures, and he does. So it was almost like, you know what it reminded me of? You know, the scene in the Amityville with George Lutz, and, you know, that's kind of what it reminded me of, like him showing his face, and, like, yeah, that's kind of what it reminded me of. But I definitely think he was targeted because I think it was going. Yeah, and I think it was going after him because he was the strongest member of the family. He was the head of the household. You know, he was the man of the house, and I absolutely think it was going after him to, like, take him out first.
Now, of course, most of the reports out there have it that, and I hate to bring this up, that your father was, I guess, for lack of a better term, raped by this entity. Now, that obviously that had to have been, like, damn near the last straw that broke the camel's back. I could not imagine be sitting there, minding your own business, watching a ball game, drinking a beer. Next thing you know, you're being thrown around your living room. What was that chaos like? I mean, how did that affect him? Because he was, again, being pinpointed by this and being attacked by this. Did he ever show fear?
Right.
Did he ever show fear?
Oh, he did. Well, he did, but mostly to my mom. But I'll never forget this story. Now, keep in mind, my older sister, she's 9 years older than me. So at the time when all this started, I was pretty young. So even though I was experiencing things and I saw everything going on, there were still things that were kept secret from us. And I didn't learn them until much later, because you're not going to tell your 7 or 8 year old that your father was raped by a ghost last night. It's not something a parent is going to tell. So, you know, my sister was older. She was an older teenager. She was already in high school. So she was like the go-to. When my mom needed help babysitting, she was the go-to. You know, she was the older sister. So when things like that happened, my sister kind of always was the one to tell. So, you know, just years later, I heard the story actually from my sister, and she said, you know, I'll never forget that morning or that night. And she said, you know, I came out of the bedroom and Dad was in the bathroom crying and leaning on Mom. And he had this, like, she said he had this stuff on him. She said, like, I don't want to be graphic, so I won't, but you guys kind of get the idea. He had, you know, stuff on him. She said it looked like ectoplasm-ish, you know, kind of substance. And she said he just was, you know, just hanging on to my mom, just sobbing. And she said, what happened? What happened? What happened? And my mom just told my sister he was attacked. And like I said, years later, she told my mom, or she told my sister, the details as we became adults. And then I didn't hear this story until probably 10 years ago when they finally, you know, told me the details. But yeah, that didn't that really hit him home. You know, that was she said that was the first and last time I ever saw Dad cry.
Yeah.
What did that entity look like?
It was like, I don't want to say shapeshifter because I mean they describe it as a succubus these days, or
Got it.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, the movie was pretty accurate. My dad said, you know, it was my beautiful woman to an ugly, you know, beast, nasty beast.
And as a child now, witnessing your father break down like that, I mean, that is shattering. You know, to witness that, your own father break down, and of course he didn't realize he had been witnessed being breaking down. But as a kid, your dad's Superman, right? So then there's that oh crap moment that, wait a minute, if Dad can't take care of this, who the hell's gonna?
Yeah.
And
I'll never forget, like, I have to say this because we probably won't get too much, you know, further into, like, the adult part of the activities, but I'll never forget, you know, I always remember my father yelling at 3 o'clock in the morning, like, come on, you SOB, you know, and I remember him yelling, but when I was 15 years old, when we lived in the new house, I had an experience and scared the living crap out of me. Probably the scariest thing that happened to me wasn't until I was 15. So, I mean, that was many years later. But I'll never forget, you know, my father, he realized what was going on and why I was hyperventilating. I couldn't even breathe. I'm going, you know, I'm crying, and he didn't even in there going, what happened? What's wrong? And I couldn't breathe. I was I just could not breathe and catch myself. And he didn't, not one word did I say anything happened. My father knew what happened. He got up out of that chair, and he went down, and he started screaming and cursing like nobody's business. He's like, you know, you're going to attack my daughter, and I'll effing this and that, and come get me, and you coward, pick on somebody your own size, and blah, blah, blah. And he, you know, at that point, he had enough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's scary and as terrifying as it was, it never broke him, because even towards the end there, even at, you know, all those years later, this was, probably 1995, all those years later, and I mean, he was still like, yeah, bring it. Come on. You know, enough is enough already. Like, you're going to attack her while she's going to the bathroom? Like, come on, you coward, you know? So,
would that elicit any response? Would that elicit any response?
It didn't.
Because it wouldn't do it on its terms, yeah.
Right. It wouldn't do anything then, and I was a main target, and so was my older sister, Dawn. It was always one or the other. Anytime my father would say, come get me, you coward, or, you know, stop pick on somebody your own size, it would never do anything immediately. One of us would get really sick.
Gotcha.
Within 24 hours, one of us would be deathly ill. I ended up in the hospital, I think, when I was in first grade. I threw up for weeks and weeks and weeks, and nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. I was to the doctor how many times? Nobody could figure out anything. And finally one day, they were like, that's it, we've got to put her in the hospital. And I remember I ended up in the hospital on IVs for about probably a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Sure.
Because every single time a priest would come, every single time my dad would call it out, every time Ed and Lorraine Warren would come and schedule a visit, I would end up just deathly ill. Just couldn't eat or take a sip of water for just days. Just completely vomiting and couldn't even leave the bathroom.
Now, a quick question.
It never failed.
A bunch of questions are rolling in, of course, from the listeners, and thank you guys so much. Here's one of them right here asking, can you, Carin, did you at the time, or can you now communicate with the spirits and find out how they move on your from and to and from your family? Were you able to gauge their movement via maybe something such as EBP or other ways of communication to better understand what it wanted from you? And I'll let you answer that one.
Sure. I will say that in the beginning, things were a lot different. So we didn't have the equipment that there is out there now. As you guys could attest to that. Back then it was, a microphone, a recorder. I mean, things didn't exist that they do today. There was no spirit boxes and all that stuff. So, I mean, even the Warrens, they used the techniques that they had, and yes, we got responses. As I got older, can I do it now? I probably could, but I've always told people not to do that kind of stuff in their home, especially in a situation like mine. If I thought it was a human spirit, maybe somebody passed away here, maybe they were here and stuck here and needed help like a human, I might. But being in the situation that I was, knowing that is demonic, knowing the strength and the power that it can have and the things that it can do, and that it can absolutely ruin your life, and if it wants, ultimately take your life, I would absolutely not communicate with it in my house.
Oh, hell no. Don't do that.
I'm not going to... No, I'm not going to give it that acknowledgement. I wouldn't want somebody to come into my house and do that, because I do everything I can to kind of ignore it and not give it that power. Yeah. No. I go into other people's houses with, like, I don't work in a paranormal group anymore. I like to assist other groups. I like to give that angle, because a lot of groups don't have somebody Catholic, sadly. A lot of groups are working without the spiritual side of things anymore. So I like to go in and kind of give my opinion and come out from the demonology side of it. So even when I go into somebody else's home, I myself don't use spirit boxes. I myself don't use any of the equipment that's out there. I leave that to the team. Let them do that. I approach things from, I can pick up on other things, that I don't need equipment for. Does it provide the proof that people need? No, but if I say, hey, I just heard this, or I just saw this, or I just felt this, and then their equipment, captures the evidence to go along with that, great. But I myself, I'm not going to open myself up to communicating with spirits that way. I've lived through too much, and I don't accidentally want to invite anything in or give it that power. Absolutely not.
Do you feel like going into these other situations that you are a magnet at all for spirit communication?
Absolutely. And not just myself. Again, even talking, to the other families, the other people that I mentioned earlier from other cases, they all say the same thing. It's kind of left them sensitive, if you will.
Sure.
Not so much as like, hey, your father just told me to, you could find that $100 that you lost. It's under the bed. Not that kind of communication. A lot of the times, you can feel their emotions. I'm very empathetic. I can feel, somebody's sadness I have a tough time going to restaurants because I can see a complete stranger across the restaurant and I'll start crying and people are like, what's wrong? I'm like, that person over there is like sad. It's just like, you ever see like the old Batman and Robin cartoons where like the words are in the bubble?
Yeah.
Remember like pow, wow, I explain it kind of like that. Like I can almost like see their emotions around them. And spirits do come to me, I was in an investigation with a group not long ago, and I mean, everything, they put all this equipment around me and everything's going off. And I'm like, well, that's because somebody's like standing right here, or they'll be like ignoring me and I'll be sitting over in the corner and I'm like, hey guys, bring that stuff over here because there's somebody standing right here. There's like a little girl right here. They come, bring all their equipment over and they set it, and sure as heck, their equipment's going off and they're catching EVPs, and I'm like, I told you, So they are drawn. So that's why I have to be careful.
It's left
because not only is the good stuff drawn, but the bad stuff is drawn. So you have to be very, very careful of what you're communicating with.
Exactly. So it's left you empathic, and you could feel the other people's emotions and what they're feeling around you. Does that ever give you overload?
Absolutely. It is so exhausting, and it leaves you not enough time or energy to kind of deal with your own stuff. Sometimes, I love to do it. I love to help people, but sometimes you're just like, oh my God, I wish I could turn my phone off, get away from Facebook, get away from text, get away from phone calls, just lock yourself in a room by yourself for a couple hours because you just feel like it's like almost like an anxiety attack. You just feel like you're going to explode, because it just gets to be so much. But there's things you can do. It takes some practice, but it's almost like it's like you're being rude, but sometimes you just kind of have to turn everybody off sometimes, because otherwise you'll go crazy.
Kind of have to put up the walls, right, to be able to not get everybody's emotion hitting you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when everybody's in a good mood around you, it's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. You're like over the moon, you feel like you just had like 3 glasses of wine. You're like, yeah. But when somebody around you is having a bad day, or they're sad, or they're sick, it's just like you can't function because you're taking on their sadness for them, and it's just like, oh my God, and that's what makes you want to help too. You're like, I got to cheer this person up because I can't take it, Yeah. It's depressing me. I gotta fix this.
Exactly. One thing we haven't touched upon at all in this conversation is your grandparents. They were affected by this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They were your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how did your grandparents handle all this?
It was tough on them because they had been, they were already getting to the point where they were older. They were dealing with health problems and, heart problems and things like that. So, I mean, it was a little tough. They, were, my grandfather was pretty much retired at that point. He was a steel worker for a very long time. And, he had retired and he was just working a few hours every morning. And, they were supposed to be retired and enjoying the life. Mm-hmm. But instead they were, dealing with this. So, I mean, it was tough on their health. And I mean, you retire, you're like, hey, this is supposed to be the best years of my life. My kids are grown. I'm not working anymore. And, you're terrified inside your house. You can't go out in public because there's a media circus. And I mean, it was no way for them to live. It was tough.
What happened? Anything specific happened to them when they're on sick? Because it was a duplex, right? Your family was on one side and they were on the other.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, even when we moved to the new house, it was the same situation. Mm-hmm. They bought that home in West Pittston together after the flood, and it did. When, like I said, my grandfather would work a few hours a day, my father would be gone, so my alone. The kids are at school. She's trying to get housework done, laundry, cleaning, making beds, preparing for supper, things like that. And then my grandmother's on the other side. She's doing the same thing, Yeah. She's cleaning and laundry and things like that. And that's when the most activity would happen with the two of them. I mean, they would experience so many things together. If one heard a voice, the other one, and I mean, the movie is great because it is pretty accurate. I mean, it's very accurate actually. And there were so many times where my grandmother would be mad at my mom, and she'd be like, "Mom, what's wrong? Why are you talking to me?" And she'd be, "Janet, I'm appalled. I'm so ashamed of you. I never thought you could use language like that. I heard the way you were talking to my son. I can't believe those words that came out of your mouth." My mom's like, "What are you talking about? He's at work, first of all, and nobody's over here yelling. I'm over here by myself. The kids are at school. I'm doing laundry. What are you talking about?" And she wouldn't believe her. And she's like, "Mom," she's like, "I heard the most foul language." So, I mean, and then be the same thing. My mom constantly was hearing her name called all the time. She'd be upstairs, she'd be hearing her name called downstairs. Downstairs, she's constantly running around going, yeah.
Thinking that
it's funny because that still happens, and that drives you nuts. Every once in a while, I'll be in the house and I'm yelling, "What?
Well,
You're Karen." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, I would imagine. I could only imagine what that's like. I thank God have not experienced anything like that in my own home, and knock on wood, and all the things that we would do to go, "Oh, thank God it wasn't me." But people don't understand. It could easily be you. Yeah, I mean that anyone, like we were talking about earlier, anyone. If you make that wrong turn and you invite it into your life, and your situation, it makes total sense talking to you. It's generational. Because, from all accounts, earlier we talked about that you guys didn't do anything. It wasn't like you guys were running around Ouija boards or playing tarot cards or doing this or doing that. Karen, if I'm not mistaken, you're only about 10 years old, when this was, a lot of this was going on. So you're not going to be running around with a recorder going, "Hey, can I get your voice, please? Tell me why you're doing this."
Yeah.
I don't know any 10-year-old that'd be doing that, by the way.
No. And Ed and Lorraine Warren did that. I mean, they had the old school, the old school, and I actually identify with Andrea Perron's movie because it's funny watching like the characters, that play Ed and Lorraine, and they have all this old school equipment out, the old cassette tapes and these big microphones, and I'm laughing because I'm like, I remember that.
Yeah,
that's what I remember. I remember them going through my house with that stuff, the old school recorder with the tape, the cassette tape, and just like what it's a lot different than it is now. That's for sure.
What was it like working with them, meeting with them? I mean, as a 10-year-old or whatever, when they came in, you probably didn't know who they really were, right?
No. The reason they got involved was because my mom had, like I said, it was a very close neighborhood, and my mom's best friend lived down at the end of the street, and she confided in her, and she said, listen, I think I'm going crazy. I don't know what's going on in my house. So the one day she actually called her up, and, we have a lot of colleges around here, a lot of community colleges, and she called my mom up and she said, I give this a try. Do you remember, like, back in the day when we had the old TV guides? You'd get a TV guide every week or whatever. Yeah, she said to my mom, I saw this couple on whatever channel it was, whatever nighttime talk show it was at that time. She said, I saw this couple, and just so happens they're going to be at the community college. It was only 20 minutes away from our house. And my mom went. And the movie is completely accurate. That's exactly what she did. She waited till the lecture was over, and she went up and said, hey, like, this is who I am, and this is what's going on. Can you help me? That's exactly how we found them, and it's exactly how they got involved.
So, they were speaking.
And thank God for that.
Yeah, they were speaking at the community college.
Yes.
Your mom gets the guts. Really, how many people would have guts to go up there and talk about it with them? Because, a lot of people would try to shy away from or try to poo-poo anything that's going on in their house, but got to such a point it couldn't be ignored anymore, so you guys turned to Ed and Lorraine. We're going to run the break, though, quick, and we'll get into Ed and Lorraine. And when they came into the house, of what Lorraine found and how things unfolded as they moved forward through the investigation. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
In 1999, The Exorcist was voted the scariest movie of all time.
Your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
Entertainment Weekly calls it the most viscerally harrowing movie ever made.
That thing upstairs isn't my daughter.
The most electrifying movie of the 20th century is now coming back to theaters.
Where's Reagan?
In here with us.
Author William Peter Blatty and director William Friedkin have created an expanded, thrilling new version of The Exorcist with footage that has never been seen before.
She needs a priest.
Don't miss The Exorcist in the version you've never seen. Possessing theaters everywhere. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
to After Hours AM. It's Tuesday night, Deeper Cuts. I'm Greg Bakken, along with my co-host Joel Sturgis. How are you doing, Joel?
I'm doing good. I'm learning a lot of things I did not know from Carin about the Smurl hunting that really isn't talked about in a lot of your mainstream articles. And so really, she's really opened up and kind of went places that I've never been before with talking with her. So very interesting stuff.
So Carin, are you having fun with us tonight? Talking about dark things,
am,
I guess.
guys.
Maybe
Thanks
that's
for
not the
having me.
Maybe that's not the right question, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's not. It's not. But hey, anything that like kind of gives, if somebody walks away with like a little tiny bit of, they don't really care about my life so much, but if they learn something, if they learn like one thing, hey, I mean, it was worth it.
I think people care. I really do. And, where we left off before we went to the break, we were starting to talk a little bit about Ed and Lorraine Warren, how they entered into your family's life. And, I guess where we could start off is kind of, were you there when they first entered into the house?
Absolutely. They, of course, they didn't barge into our home. They were very respectful. They met each one of us. They were very because they had their own family. I mean, these were family people, so they were very sensitive to the fact that there were young children and pets, and an older couple. So, and luckily they were Catholic. So I mean, of course we shared the same religion, so they were respectful on that point. But they were very, they weren't cold and overbearing. They didn't come in and take over the house and invade our privacy and make us feel. They didn't make us feel crazy. It was very nice. I mean, they are probably two of the best people I have ever had the opportunity to meet in my entire life. And I know they take a lot of slack, and I know they take a bad rap. But anybody, if they had the chance to ever meet them, they would change their mind and apologize 5 seconds later because they're just so genuine and so sweet and so caring. It's just. They just, give off, like,
sure,
just kindness, the kindness. That's
well,
it.
When they came in, and Lorraine, of course, is the sensitive of the two, what was her impression doing the walkthrough of the home? What did she see with her mind's eye that she relayed to your family?
She was actually the one who gave us all the information about the past. She immediately said, here's what's here. I mean, it didn't take her long at all. And she said, I remember being there for that even, it was something I wasn't sheltered from. And she said, I want to let you guys know what you're up against. And here's what I feel. I mean, there's, 2 female spirits here. There's a male spirit here, and there's a demonic spirit here. Mm-hmm. And she almost explained it like the demonic spirit was using the human spirits as puppets, like, kind of like had them trapped there, kind of like dangling them around, like you're going to do this and you're going to do that and you're going to help me torture this family. Because they had done bad things. I mean, there were bad things I told you about, the murder and infidelity and all that stuff, but some of that stuff was proven. Yeah. And you know what I like about the information that they gave? It wasn't so easy to get back then.
Yeah, exactly. There was no Google. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. So when I hear a so-called medium, a so-called psychic, talk about a location or go into a location, my God, you could say, you could know more about the place from Google in 5 seconds than you can get anywhere else. I mean, it's not that hard to get in. You can go on to Zillow, which is, if everybody knows,
sure, the real estate app. Yeah, Zillow.com.
Yeah, real estate. Thank you. Right. You could go into a site like that and look at the inside of a home and know, like, it has 4 rooms and it has this upstairs and that.
Sure.
I've actually kind of caught doing stuff like that, and I'm like, it's so easy. And with Photoshop and photos, and it's just become such a different field, and there's so many skeptics out there. I know you guys are skeptics. I get it,
But there's a big difference.
I would probably be who knows?
There's a big difference between a skeptic. There's a big difference between a skeptic and a cynic. Yeah, I mean, unless a skeptic, a healthy skeptic's willing to listen to the evidence and look at it with an objective eye, where the cynic is going, you know what, don't bother me with the information. My mind's already made up.
Right.
I had a quick question. When it came to Ed and Lorraine coming in, was that before or after all the media attention that was put onto you? Was because I know like there's basically a media circus outside your house at some point. Was that after the Warrens took part?
It was, and I would love to clarify something for the skeptics out there. This is probably one of the main things we've heard over the years. Oh, they did it for money. Ed and Lorraine Warren came in, and they told them to go public, and then they got a book and a movie, and that is probably the biggest things that skeptics come at us with.
Yeah.
They did it for the money. First of all, I'd love to see where the money is because we never made a dime. Truly, my parents never made a dime. It was a made-for-TV movie, for God's sakes. But anyway,
Sure.
So that's the big thing, oh, they did it for money, and I hear, oh, well, the Warrens were involved, so what does that tell you right there?
Yeah.
They were also involved in the Amityville. Everything they do is a hoax.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Let me tell you
I've
this.
heard that.
The reason that the media got involved is because my parents being Catholic for their whole entire lives, you were always taught when you're Catholic, if you ever need anything, you go to your priest.
Yep. That is true.
Whether somebody's a drug addict, whether you need relationship counseling, whatever the case might be, you can always go to your family priest. Well, my mom did go to the family priest, and he was gracious. He was a great guy. He came to the house. He did a blessing. Typically what you do when you move into a new home. They had him over for dinner, did the whole blessing. But, when things got worse, and my mom said, something's really going on here, and he's like, listen, we don't do that anymore. I can't help. So she went to the archbishop, and she got, I'm sorry, we don't do that anymore. We don't even teach our priests that anymore. We don't know what to do. And then she begged and called 10 times a day, every day for months and months and months. Finally, they agreed to send somebody. Of course, when they sent somebody, nothing happened.
Yeah.
So after we found the Warrens, because they were Catholic, tried to get somebody to help us. They went to the Catholic Church themselves. Listen, these people really need help. We have evidence. Please help us help them. They still wouldn't help us. So
wow.
One alternative was we find a way to get them to help us, because who else do you talk to? Or, what do you do? Give up your faith and say, screw you guys, you won't help us. I don't want to be Catholic anymore. No, you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, okay, well, as much as we don't want to do it, it's almost like, I hate to use this word because it's just for lack of a better word. It's almost like shaming them into helping us.
Yeah.
Pressuring them into helping us, saying, okay, we're going to the media and we're going to say, listen, this family is devout Catholics. They've been giving to the church their whole lives, and they refuse to help them. What do you guys think about that? This family needs help. That's what it was, but people see it as, oh, the Warrens just wanted them to go public, and so they could get the attention. No, that's not what it was at all. It was literally the last thing my mom wanted to do. She never wanted to do that, but they said, like, if we could turn this into a circus, maybe the church is going to say, okay, well, we've got to do something.
Sure.
And that's exactly what happened.
I could,
it was like the church was like, okay, shush.
Yeah.
Shush, we'll help you. Just be quiet.
Well, yeah, because they didn't want it to go to the court of a public opinion, is what they did not want that to go to the Catholic Church, speaking of them. They didn't want people to read, well, they're not coming in to save the day. What's wrong with these people? That's the last thing that they wanted. And so, but it's really horrible that you had to shame them into showing up to help your family when they, as in all religions, scream from the top of the roofs, we'll help you if you need us. We're here. Unless it's a demon. Then don't count us in.
Yeah. And sadly, it's getting worse, and it's not just the United States. I have some friends in the UK and all over Australia, and they are also doing this work. And they say, Karen, it's so sad. In this field today, the Catholics we are considered the nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are considered the minority. We are now the ones that people are like, oh, they're Catholic. Look at them with their holy water. You know, we're the crazy ones. Do you know how many priests I get? Oh, I asked my priest for help, but my priest said he doesn't believe in the devil. Hello?
Wow.
I hear that so often, and I hear, you know, we don't teach that anymore. We're not taught about the devil in school. We're not taught about exorcisms. We're not taught about any of that stuff. Spiritual warfare, they just don't teach anymore. So now it's even worse, because now you've got priests, not only are they not being taught that, but now you've got priests openly saying, I don't believe in the devil. That blows my mind.
That's nuts.
I've heard that at least a dozen times.
So, you know, one thing, speaking of priests and whatnot, you had at the house, you had, what, 2 failed exorcisms and one that they believe worked? And I guess also I kind of wonder how they, like, from what I'm reading, how can you say a 3rd exorcism worked while stuff is still happening?
Correct. Actually, it was about 5 exorcisms. It was,
okay.
I believe, 3. It was 3. I believe 3 in the original house, and then 2 in the new home.
Okay.
It is crazy. I mean, it did help, but it took. It wasn't just like, you know. I can describe that as an addict as well. I mean, you know, sometimes you've got to see somebody go to rehab 4, 5, 6 times before something good happens. Unfortunately, you know, I mean, this just, it was like beating it down, like it didn't want to give up. It was like beating it down little by little by little by little. So, I mean, I don't know what would have happened if we didn't have any exorcisms, but it truly did work. I mean, you know, it just...
Right.
Yeah, it was a work in
progress. It went from every single day to every week, and then every week to maybe once a month something would happen, then maybe once every 6 months, and then, you know, maybe a couple times a year. So,
was it Father McKenna for all of the exorcisms?
I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So the very last one, I believe, was not Father McKenna, but I think I think he was there, but he had an assistant because he was actually ill at the time.
Sure.
He was getting up there. He was getting up there.
But I mean,
Father McKenna was a little bit of a rogue priest too. You know, he had. I think that's one of the reasons he never stepped away from the church. He did not, but he was one of the few priests left that actually did know how to do exorcisms and did believe in the, you know, battle against evil. So,
sure.
I mean, we were lucky enough to have him as well, because he was tough, man. He was. Nothing scared that guy. I mean, if it did, he hit it very well.
Still part of the old guard, so to speak. Still knew how to do exorcisms.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like one of the old schoolers.
Yeah, like you said just recently, you know, they don't teach that anymore. And you're right. If you go to any religion and you go, oh my God, I have this whatever going on, demonically or spiritually, they kind of go, yeah, well, you know that was really a long time ago. And we've come up, we're more enlightened now. We're in the new millennia, and we understand mental health better than we did before.
Right.
Is sometimes the excuses I've heard.
You know, right. And as I mentioned before, it's a tough. I always offer people my help because I'll always steer you in the right direction. Whether, I mean, there's people. I have a lot of. Let's put it this way: this field is very diverse, as you know, Joel. And there's people that approach these things from all different kinds of angles. And I'm just going to say this, and I'm not saying this to be a smartass, and I'm not saying this to be like I'm better than anyone, because I'm not. Yeah. But we, you know, like I said, we're the minority, and it's funny because I'm in Pennsylvania, and just like every other state, paranormal groups are a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. Every little town has a group. We all know that. You can go on Facebook and wherever, and you can, oh my gosh, there's countless, you know. But here's the funny part, and I'm not going to name names because I just, that's one thing I will never do. But let me just say this. You know, all these groups that think like, okay, I'm going to scare it away with my sage, and I'm going to scare it away with my crystals, and I'm going to scare it away because I'm a Wiccan, and I'm going to, you know, do all these different things. I'm not knocking that. Again, like whatever you believe, as long as you're a good person to me, I'm not going to dislike you because you're a Wiccan. I'm not going to dislike you because you're Jewish or because you're atheist. As long as you're a good person,
Mm-hmm.
you do the right things, and you treat people like you want to be treated, I'm okay with that.
Okay,
However,
Karen.
when it comes to dealing with these types of things, they always come back. They
Well,
always say, I
yeah.
had 3 groups help me, and I didn't get me anywhere. Can you help me?
I was gonna say-
it always comes back to the tried and true.
Exactly. I was going to say level with me. Have you ever seen any of that work? The sage, the medallions.
I have not.
Okay.
I have not. They always truly come, and they'll name names. You know, I called this group. I had this group. This person came. They did this. They did, and it's been this many years, and it's still going on. So obviously, it's not working. So, you know, they're telling me who's coming and what they're doing, and I'm going, well, you know, I could have told you that. So I'm the last resort, which is fine. I don't mind.
Just tell them.
But it really always comes down to the trial.
Just tell them to call a couple Just tell them to call a couple plumbers over. They'll get the same result then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stop having, fix my leak while you're here at least. That kind of thing. And
yeah, exactly.
I get you. I've heard that time and time again from people in the, from your mindset that have lived through what you've lived through. And they've said, none of that stuff really works. Tim Yancey even told me that one. We were BSing one time. You know Tim. And he's been on the show several times, and we got to this subject matter. And he's like, I don't want to say it doesn't work, but it hasn't worked in my experience. And that's very telling.
Do you think that Satan is afraid of a purple crystal that you're waving back and forth? Do you think Satan is afraid of some sage that you're waving around? I mean, come on, let's be real.
But Karen, are you saying that you give the edge to what fixed or what helped greatly your situation, your family situation with Catholicism?
Absolutely. I mean, when it's truly demonic.
Yeah.
I mean, Joel, let's be real. I mean, how many really real, true demonic cases have you heard about in your life?
I've been involved with one, and that took enough for me to call in the big guns, and I was out of there, to be honest with you. I'm like, okay, this is above my pay grade.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Right, that's the point. In this field, you always hear, oh my God, it's demonic, we're going to fight a demon. Or you hear, oh my God, I have an evil attachment. It seems to be the cool thing now to have an attachment and to say like, oh, I'm being oppressed, and that seems like the cool thing. Like, I don't get it because that's not cool. But I mean, how many true? I mean, there's not that many true demonic hauntings. So the fact that these people aren't really experiencing these things in the first place. So they're not even learning how to tell the difference. They're thinking that because there's a negative energy, probably a bad person who did bad things in their life here on Earth, that energy is still there with them now. They're probably just as negative as a spirit. It's probably a human spirit that's just a bad egg.
Well, sure, as in life, as in death. So if you're a jerk or a nice person in life, chances are you're going to be either a jerk or a nice person in death. I mean, I don't understand why anyone would think that their personality would change, because the personality is part of your soul. That is you. That's your essence. Is your personality. And Greg and I, we've had this discussion, haven't we, Greg? I mean, why are some... why is the D word being thrown around like it's the new big thing to have? Like, oh yeah, we did a demonic case last weekend. Let me tell you.
I mean, the thing is, in my opinion, is that you're absolutely right, Karen. That there is that's so easy to go to about the demon side of stuff, but at the same time, I think that there is not nearly to the extent of what happened to you or to the parents or some of those massive cases. But I mean, there are still that demonic activity that's not getting that's to the people who are not even part of the paranormal. That is still coming through. And there's people that we've known or worked with that have gone that route. And ultimately for me, it always seems like down to a faith of some kind.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot there. It's hard to say to somebody there's not a lot of demonic, but then there's a lot of evil in the world, because it's kind of like you're contradicting yourself.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
But there is a lot of evil in the world, and there's always that potential to invite in the demonic, because there's a lot of, I mean, look at the war. Look at the war that goes on in like all these countries, and
But
there's famine, and there's all kinds of evil things going on. So I mean, the potential is always there.
But don't we come back full circle to intent now? I mean, if your intent is to go find a demon, it'll oblige you. If that's what you're looking for, and you're calling out to, hell yeah, I'm there. But by and large, if you're going on a standard, normal, mundane, let's go and hang out, let's just say at a location, have fun, your chances of finding that holy crap demon are pretty slim. But it's the guy that gets a hold of me and Greg and everyone else that says, you're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this. But I got something weird in my house. I don't know what's going on. And the previous owner, they used to dabble in this, or I dabbled in this, and I don't know what to do now. I don't know how to close the door.
Yes.
That is where the rubber meets the road. When you open that door, it's going to step right on through every time.
Yep.
So I got a listener question, or just kind of a viewpoint that's a little bit different, and just wanted to read this and get your thoughts on it. Their comment is, let's be honest, didn't Catholics create or instill the fear of the demonic to the masses to begin with? This view of only a Catholic can get rid of a demonic is specifically a Catholic viewpoint?
Well, let's be fair. I mean, it's just not Catholics. I mean, they speak of an underworld god, or however you want to put it, whatever religion, whatever term they use. I mean, just like there's a god in a lot of religions, there's also a negative entity as well. So I mean, it's not just a Catholic thing. They just don't call him the devil. So I mean, there's a lot of religions that believe in a higher power or a creator or something, and there's a negative as well. So I mean, that's not a fair thing to say. Do you have to be Catholic to get rid of the devil? In my experience, that's mainly what I've seen. I haven't seen. Let's see. I'm trying to think of an example. Actually, I'm even trying to think of any case.
I think though. Can I give you my 2 cents? I think that if you are strong in your faith, and whatever that faith may or may not be, that's entirely up to the individual. That I think that we are all given that ability we have to be given that ability. If we are truly created by God, let's just use God in this scenario. I mean, it could be anyone. Here's the blank. We are created by blank. If we are created in His image, should we not be given some of the powers to banish? It even says in the Bible, if you want to go that far, that we are given that power should we invoke the name of Jesus to banish demons. It's said in black and white.
Yes. Right. As long as you're not participating in all of the sins of the devil. I mean, you can't be a constant sinner 24 hours a day and then think that you're going to have the strength to drive out the devil because he's going to laugh in your face. He's like, yeah, okay, all right, well, let's see.
Yeah,
you're doing this,
you're
doing that. I mean, you also have to be in somewhat of a state of grace to have that power to say, God is my creator. I am a warrior of God. I'm fighting on God's side. If you're sinning constantly, you're not a warrior of God. I mean, you're kind of following the devil's footsteps there. So he's going to be like, hey, this is like the pot calling the kettle black. You're trying to get rid of me, saying I'm evil, you want me to leave, but look at you. You're like top-notch sinner over here.
And just to follow up to that really quick but the devil, as we know it today, was indeed created by the Christian faith.
Mm-hmm.
He was created by the Christian faith.
Right.
I am Christian. I'm Lutheran, which is a kissing cousin to Catholic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That was created by a writer. That was cited. I'm playing devil's advocate, no pun intended.
No, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and you're going to get me in trouble here. You're going to get me in trouble for saying this on the radio because I say this behind closed doors. But since your listener, really wants to know, I mean, listen, I'm Roman Catholic, which is probably the strictest of the Catholics. I've done a lot of studying, and listen, I do not feel that you have to go to church every Sunday. I mean, I can do the same praying at home as I can going to church. God, I'm going to get in so much trouble for that one, I'm sure. You can live, I don't have to go into a building with 4 walls and a roof to work, to pray. Also, I've had many discussions about the Bible. I think a lot of parts of the Bible were written by man in times where they wanted to scare you away from doing things.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, there's a lot of disease going around, so don't have sex or you're going to hell. They didn't want people drinking, so like, hey, don't drink liquor or spirits, you're going to go to hell. I think a lot of the stuff in the Bible was stuff that men used to frighten the masses into either doing something or not doing something.
And keep women down.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So even though I'm Catholic and a Christian, I mean, did God write, did he come down and write the Bible and hand it to somebody and say, here, I wrote this, like this, you need to follow this? No. It was written by a man.
Do you think?
And
Karen, do you think it's bigger than just the devil? Do you think that there's more at work than just blaming it on like one deity? What I guess what I'm trying to say is there a certain amount of us that could be haunting ourselves?
Absolutely, we have our own demons, and those demons are things like that we struggle with in our everyday lives. People say, what are your demons? Gambling, alcohol, drugs. It's just like you mentioned earlier, just the negativity, the aura that you carry around with you every day. When you wake up negative in the morning and you carry that to work and everybody around you sees you as negative and everything you do is negative, I mean, absolutely. But let me just say, I'm going to step away from being Catholic for a second. I know there's a lot of skeptics, and it's hard until you have your own experiences.
Sure.
And, I don't wish what I had on anybody. A lot of people are like, I want to see a ghost. I want to see if demons really exist. No, you don't. No, you don't. Trust me, you don't. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And, I've seen too much, not just the haunting I went through, things I've seen with all of the clients that I help, things that I've experienced from people passing. Do you think I haven't? My father passed away on June 22nd. Trust me, he has shown us 100% without a doubt that he is there somewhere on the other side waiting for us. He's there. He already showed himself, made himself known. We already know. Yeah. And he's not the first relative. We've had relatives all through the years. Let's make themselves known. I always say, I'm walking around my house, I'm like, hey, Graham, I just saw you. Hey, thanks for coming. And the signs that they give us are all around us. You just have to pay attention. You just have to pay attention. Those little things that you think, oh, did I just imagine that? No, you probably didn't. They're giving you a sign. So I've had, really quick, I know we're running out of time. We lived in that duplex in West Pittston. There was a duplex right next to us. And that duplex consisted of my mom's mom and her sister. So we had family in the duplex next door. And my mom's sister, so my aunt, didn't believe our story. She didn't believe it when it was happening, even though she lived right next door. She didn't believe it, even though she had experiences. She did not believe it. About 10 years ago, she went to Gettysburg with a girlfriend of hers. They took a vacation. They stayed in a little, what's that one, the Farnsworth house?
Sure.
They stayed in the Farnsworth house down in Gettysburg. She did not sleep the whole entire weekend, had her own experiences. She got into town, called my mother on the phone, and said, Janet, I'm sorry. My mom said, for what? She said, I'm sorry for all those times I didn't believe you because this is what happened to me this weekend.
Wow.
So she had her own
experience.
She had her own experience in Gettysburg, and she said, oh, my God, my sister, and she was telling the truth, and I didn't believe her, and I didn't support her, and I didn't have her back.
Well, it only takes one experience, they say, to turn a skeptic into a believer, and that being said, Greg, we're at the end. It's been just an honor talking with you, Karen, and it's really been very thought-provoking, and thank you so much for coming on the show. And I want to thank all of our listeners that made this expansion to Tuesdays just so wildly successful. But we want to tell them, take care of each other, love each other, and, look out for each other as well. Help each other in these situations when they do arise. Till then, talk to you guys tomorrow night for a little True Crime Wednesday. You're not going to want to miss that. Again, that's with Dr. Clarissa Cole, Eric Olson, and myself, 8 p.m. Same channel. It'll be a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM, and please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.